In the third video in the series on the freeform ladder diagram editor in the KAS IDE software, we're going to go over some advanced features. This includes using jumps, as well as what we mean by it being a freeform editor, where you can add elements of structured text code inside contacts or as inputs to function blocks. In the first video, I mentioned that you would add labels to networks in order to jump to them. I added a label for network 1. Now I'm going to add one for network 3. So I'm just going to double click on the network level and enter network 3 label. And you can have spaces in your labels, just to show you. Now I have a label for network 1 and network 3. And to add a jump, I'm going to first add a contact. So I'll have some logic. I won't always do the jump. I'll only do the jump if a certain variable is true. And after that, there's this button over here to insert a jump, or we can do Control-Shift-J for the hotkey. Once I add the jump, there's 3 options. Each label I've given a network, so I've created 2 labels, so I can either jump to label for network 1 or network 3 label. And return will always be there. This, you don't have to add a label to any network. It just means it'll skip all the code in this program or go to the very bottom of this specific ladder editor. I'm going to choose network 3 label. Now, in this program, if jump variable is true, it'll execute this jump. It'll actually skip all the code that's in the rest of network 1 and all of network 2 and instead go right to network 3. As a general rule, I like to tell people that it's fine if you jump down or forward in your program, but we tell people it's best not to jump up or backwards. The reason being is you can quickly get into a semi-infinite loop. It doesn't take long with KAS running at the Ethercat update rate not to be able to run in, say, a millisecond or faster that your program's trying to run in. So, once again, as a general rule, just jump down, don't jump upwards. Now we're going to go over some more advanced features that show why we call this a freeform ladder diagram editor, not just a standard ladder diagram editor. So what does that mean? Well, you may see right off the bat, we don't force you into a very rigid structure where you have to go contact, function block, coil. We don't force you to add anything to the outputs if you don't want to. Also, you can even put blank or empty coils, and in this way you can see the program animate with the power flow, but it'll compile without a variable even in there. Another example is you can do basic structured text or just typing out equations right in the input of function blocks. Maybe I don't want to write 100 to command velocity. I want to have not just a variable, but scaling value. So maybe I have a analog input signal that's also a long reel, but I want to scale it, and instead of having multiple function blocks to multiply or divide by different values, you can do that right in the input. So this will compile successfully as long as you're not mixing different variable types. And so since these are all long reel values, that will work. It's going to save you a lot of time and also just space and easier to read your program. Once again, otherwise we would have had to gone down and find a arithmetic multiplication function, drag that out, filled out all the inputs and outputs. It would just taken a lot more time and space. You can also do the same thing inside the code of coils, or contacts. Instead of just tying a variable to a contact, I can go in instead look at integer or long reel based variables. So I can check if something's greater than, less than, or equal to. So in this case, I can be looking at axis 1 position. If it's ever greater than 100, automatically change the command velocity variable. You can also have multiple Boolean variables inside one contact. So for instance, why would you want to do that? Well, instead of maybe putting multiple contacts and having to add code to put them in parallel by having a vertical line, you could have saved some time and just inside one contact put and. So you can have as many ands or ors inside one contact if you'd like, as long as the whole statement will end up compiling to be a simple true or false. The last option I'm going to show you is this button here to toggle trace mode. And with this, instead of dropping one vertical or horizontal line at a time, you can hold down your mouse and sort of free draw multiple at a time, and it will show kind of preview with the dotted lines until you let go of your mouse, and then you let go and it will all be placed. So you can see it's a little sensitive, so you got to be careful and not try to draw too much, but it's very handy instead of having to drop individual multiple vertical and horizontal lines. It can be a time saver. So that's it for the overview of our freeform ladder diagram editor.